So, hello everyone. Today we are here, Anita Fevang. This is our final series in the 5 love languages, and today we're talking about parenting, parent-child relationship, and specifically with relation to bullying. And I'd like to welcome Anita Fevang. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you, Sadiksha.
About bullying, you usually think of like a school or somewhere outside where parents are not there. So tell us a little about what is that connection between parent-child relationship and being able to prevent bullying?
Right, so even though bullying happens mostly in school or in the school ground or on the way to and from school, you've got the child there that's got their own self-worth with them. So if you learn the 5 love languages, it can prevent bullying in 3 different ways. So first of all, it's a way to ensure that your child really feels that you love them. And if the child feels that the parent loves them, that means the child will have a higher self-worth than if they didn't feel that their parents love them. So if you know your child's love language, you can make sure you should fill up all the love languages and use all the love languages to fill up their love tank. But it could be that let's say your own love language is acts of service and your husband's love language is words of affirmation, then they will be good at giving that to the child. But if the child really needs quality time and you don't give that to the child because you don't think of it, then that child will feel miserable and it will become maybe a bit more naughty and a bit more difficult. And it will be more difficult to be around both at home and at school, and it might not feel that it's that important to the parents. So their self-worth will be lower. So that's the one way. So they will, if they have a high self-worth, then they will be able to handle such a teasing and children just being children, just playing around, saying silly things, and they won't take it so personally because their identities are already strong and they feel that they're important and they've got that strong connection with their parents, so they won't be as upset by tiny things. So that's one of the ways. The other way is that if your child is confident that you love her or him, he will feel happier within himself, and happier children, they don't want to bully others. So it's a prevention in that way as well. I think if you feel really safe and connected, and if you feel good at home and you've had a good upbringing for the last few years, then I've never seen children, for all those years that I worked within child protection and within the schools, I've never seen really happy children or really happy teenagers bullying. I know that's very rare. So that's the second way. The other way is that if you're teaching the child the 5 love languages, if that becomes a part of your family culture and you talk about that and you behave like that with your partner, with your child, then that becomes a part of learning social skills. And I think children with good social skills, that's the best prevention from bullying, because it can help them handle situations, but also, most importantly, it's known to lead to friendships. So it's easier for children with high level of social skills to get friends, make friends, and also to keep friends. And 5 love languages is just amazing tools for that. So if the child knows how to have quality time, which is, I think, one of the most important languages to teach children, if they learn to invite other kids to do something that the other children want to do, and most importantly, they listen to them when they want to share about what they're interested in talking about, I think all kids want friends like that. And that's a lot more important than some of the old-fashioned ways of thinking of, oh, she's got glasses, or she's got stupid-looking ears, or she's got the wrong clothes, or the strange dialect. Those sort of things are not half as important as having the right social skills. And I think, so if they learn quality time by really being present, listening, asking questions about what the other child wants to do and showing an interest in them, that's a really great social skill. If they learn words of affirmation, if they know how to give a good compliment, that is really great. Acts of service, if they are helpful in their friends' houses, or even just helping their friends if they're struggling with their maths or carrying something heavy. To offer your help is a really great thing. And the same is if they're giving gifts. Maybe their friend loves strawberries and they get to bring strawberries to school and they share some of those strawberries. I think that's a really good way of giving gifts. And physical touch, to know about, some kids like to be hugged, some people don't like it. To know about intimate zones that are different with different people, and also to know who likes a high five, who wants a hug, who wants to do play fighting, those sort of things. I think they're really, really good social skills. So those are the 3 ways that you can really stop bullying, with teaching and living by those 5 love languages.
There are 2 parts to bullying, right? One who gets bullied, and one who bullies. So both of those can be has to do with high self-worth or confidence.
Yeah, and also if you got high self-worth, if you feel valuable in yourself, then, like I said, you don't take sort of silly teasing so personally. But also, if you got high self-worth, you will also normally gain more self-confidence. So that means if your identity isn't threatened, you will try more things. So you will be able to try out, football or drawing or swimming or whatever activities you want to do. And even if you're not very good at it in the beginning, that won't threaten you as a person and your I or your identity, so to speak. You won't be threatened by that. So that means you'll tolerate not being able to do something and practice it, and then maybe one day you will be better and gain more confidence. And once you gain more confidence in one area, it's easier then to try out new things again. So it's like a positive spiral. And also, obviously, if you're trying new things, enjoying new things, noticing that it takes some practice and you need that sort of self-discipline to be better and trying out, and that it's not that important that you're not good at everything, then that gives you a lot more opportunities to then be a part of a team or a club or scouts or football, baseball, whatever you want to do. And then you get more social training as well. And that means that you'll be more capable of making friends, which is, again, the most important thing. If you want to not be bullied, you need a friend or a few friends. That's your best way out of bullying. And also, then if you do get bullied or if you do get teased, if you've got some friends that you care about and they care about you and they think you're a great person, you won't take it as personally and you won't be upset in the same way as you would otherwise.
Out for the bullies, why do you think bullies bully?
Well, there's been quite a lot of research done on that. Who are the bullies? Why do they become bullies? And the main thing is very authority-based parenting style. So it's like being an authority, but with maybe with a bit of violence, or expecting your children not to ask why. If they're not allowed to do something, you're just expecting them to listen just because you're the adult, and you might give them threats and punishment, and sometimes doing physical harm as well. even without the physical harm, that style of parenting is seen to have a connection with the people becoming bullies. That's the main thing. Then they sort of copy that way of behaving, and sometimes they're really hurt inside and they take it out on other kids, and they're not learnt proper conflict solutions and the way to work through conflicts in different ways. So that's the main thing. And another person that will more likely become a bully is somebody who has been allowed to get away with anything, there've been no limits, no boundaries, and no explanation why they should or shouldn't do something. So they've just been sort of like little princesses or little princes that have been allowed to do almost sort of anything. And also because they've not learned what's upsetting or hurtful for other people, because nobody set their boundaries for them. So those are kind of like this two extremes that could lead to children becoming bullies. And also more than half of the kids who bully have been bullied themselves, which is kind of strange, because you would have thought if you've experienced it, you wouldn't want to do that to other people. But if they don't have safe attachment to their parents, then that's a really, really bad sign. So if they've had parents who've abused them, or like physically or sexually or verbally, or if they've been parents who struggle with drugs or alcoholism, or if there's violence at home, they are not present with the child and they're sort of in and out of parenting, and sometimes they're there and they get their needs met and other times they won't. So if the child is 5 and hits somebody, then one day the mother might laugh at it, the next day she might punish him by hitting him back, or another day she might completely ignore it and not see it. So it's kind of that unsafe attachment is also seen as it's a high risk he needs to have, like and really listening and really being there and being supportive if he or she is upset, crying, screaming, shouting, having those tantrums, and having that in a safe environment at home, and not see that as being naughty and being punished and send them to the room or lock them in or send them on the naughty chair or something. Just let them be with those feelings so that it doesn't come out inappropriately in other places. And just to know that they are going to have upset, then they are going to have some safe harbour at home to let all those feelings out, and to actually learn to think and to get that self-discipline in place. So I'm not saying there shouldn't be any boundaries. I'm not saying that you shouldn't set your limits and boundaries, because that's really unsafe for kids if they don't have that. But it has to come from a place of warmth and love when you do it. And also, rather than focusing on punishment and consequences, you should really focus on catching them doing good. That's a lot more effective, and giving them praise and giving them feedback when they are doing what is wanted.
And parenting sometimes can be really frustrating, right? So there's the temper tantrums, and do you think parents add meaning to what the children says, and they do sort of kind of set those boundaries without kind of saying why at times?
Well, I think a lot of the time it's to do with our own upbringing, with our own experiences, and it's like we get triggered. And it's kind of interesting that the kids know us so well, they know how to sort of press the buttons. And it can be really frustrating, it can be really hard, but a lot of the time it's unresolved issues in our own love tank that needs filling up. Because we can normally handle it more wisely, because our brain works better if our love tank is full as well. And I think if you haven't got a partner, get it from friends or other people. Make sure you get your love tank filled up. And I got a really good advice for that. And I think having a partner, like a friend or anyone else who's got children, to listen to you. I think being listened to is extremely important. So I think if you've got somebody where you can say anything, all those feelings, all the frustration, all the words, everything that you don't have to, you hold back. You can't say all those things you feel and mean with your children or your colleagues or your partner. But if you just have somebody, even for just 15 minutes a week, where Wednesday night I'm going to be talking to so-and-so and let everything out, all the frustrations, all the difficulty, all the stress of parenting, I think that really works. And I think you'll be surprised how effective that one thing is. So that's a really good advice. Get it out, talk it out, because it actually happens in your brain. You get this from the feeling part of the brain to the word part of the brain, where you can think more logically and you can kind of tidy up and you get it out, and it's really good for you. And when you are able to get it out and then see that sort of difficult behavior and that child getting on your nerves, it's more easily there. You can see it as a love tank that's empty, and you can see it. There's something called circle security, which is a really great way of thinking of children, and they got books and courses as well, and they see it as the child needing to charge. That means if they're being naughty or difficult, they need to charge, and just like a light or something. And you're the safe parent, the safe harbor, and where they can go back, be safe, feel loved, feel the connection, and then they can get off and bump into something difficult again in the world, and then they will come back and they need recharging. And if you can see that they need recharging, or if you can see that their love tank is emptying and it needs filling up, I find that's a lot easier to sort of be with that bad behavior and be with the fact that they're children and they're difficult and they're annoying and they don't understand consequences and they're loud and they are all these things, and that helps a lot. I found that when I work with teenagers as well, when my staff saw their teenagers' really bad behavior, when they saw it as an empty love tank, or they saw it as some trauma that hadn't been worked out yet, some old trauma that was triggered and came out in an irrational, negative way, it helped them feel a lot less frustrated, and they just took responsibility to fill up the love tank and make sure the relationship was better again.
I think this is a perfect segue to kind of talk about what you do so great in terms of using these 5 love languages with children. Tell us a little more about your experience using 5 love languages with children, because you've been garnering local and national attention in Norway for using these and doing it successfully. So tell us a little about it.
Well, when we met the teenagers, we would find out what was their main love language. And when we worked together with the school and the parents and the people working in the institution, when we focused on filling up their love tank, we got their best versions of themselves coming out. And when we started using these tools combined with trauma-based care, and we started seeing bad behavior as an empty love tank, we reacted differently, and therefore we reduced a lot of violence, almost 90%. And I think it's the same with children. I think it's the same with us. I think we all want to be nice and work together with others and be a part of the family and to be good. I think that's our natural ways as human beings, and I think young children want to be a part of their social group. And when they're not behaving in a way that's great, it's that they're struggling. To see it like that, I think it makes a huge difference. And it's like a basic need to feel connected, to feel loved, and to feel appreciated. So I think seeing it as a deep, normal need, but for these teenagers I worked with, they hadn't had a lot of that be filled up for years and years. and also they'd had a lot of holes in their love tank, because let's say they had words of affirmation as their main love language, they wouldn't behave in a way that gave a lot of words of affirmation. So the teachers and the neighbors and the other kids, they would criticize them a lot. So their love tanks weren't just empty, they would have holes in them. So it was a big job, and we had to be really professional to make sure that we had our love tanks filled up, so that we could give and be patient and see it as an expression of them really being very, very sad and scared, rather than difficult and rebellion.
So this trauma-based care with 5 love languages was something that you used in during your work at the Family and Child Services?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that the success of that triggered you to take it to more children and in more places. Tell us about the experiments that you're doing. Are those called experiments or initiatives?
Well, we had really great success, and those teenagers started reaching a lot of their goals. It was amazing. They started to do planning and thinking and do really clever things, and because they learned these social skills, they managed to get on with people in their class, and a lot of good things happened from it. But there was still this director who was quite old-fashioned, and he was more into sort of consequences and punishments and giving them sort of recognition if they did what we wanted them to do. So he was against the whole love language thing, which was a bit crazy considering the good results we had. But he said, no, we're not going to have any of that, and that's nothing to do with child protection. And I thought, rather than stopping it, I wanted to spread it as widely as possible. So I've used it for adults, because I saw what they did with the staff members when they learned each other's appreciation languages. So we started using it there, and we saw how people were not sick anymore. We reduced sick notes by 50%. We had a lot happier adults, and then we saw how that affected the teenagers. So I started looking into how it could work in schools. So there is a program, it's an American program called 5 Love Languages in School. So I changed that around and made it more sort of trauma-based program, and I used it for young people in schools, and also I made a program for teenagers. And we had really great results, like on the before and after tests, and how the school environment is. But again, I think, like on Friday, I'm teaching the adults in the school the same program. It's the same basic, same tools, and they get to see how they can use it with with their pupils in class. And I think you can make a whole environment differ in that way. But in that research, I've been talking to the author a lot, and we agree that parenting makes a huge difference as well. So, for example, if we had little Paul who was being really difficult in school, a lot of the time we found that he would be sort of the principal's or the social worker's best friend and wanting time with them. But then the parents learned about the 5 love languages, and they found that little Paul wanted quality time, that was his main language, and they started giving him that, and we could see his behavior in school really transform. So that was quite like an eye-opening. That's why I'm working on an online course for parents at the moment, where they can learn about how to do parenting so the kids won't be bullied, and also so they will behave in a better way and get the right social skills out of being liked in the first place.
That would seem like an amazing course for parents to have.
Well, it's an amazing course. It's going to be for parents who've got kids 5 to 9, because then they can still do a lot and it's a great way to prepare them from being at school and making friends, keeping friends, which is one of the main things for learning in school as well. If they're happy in themselves, if they feel safe, that parents love them, if they got a friend who likes them, if they behave in a way that so the teachers like them, then that's the best thing you can do for your child to learn. And also, if they're not stressed out wondering whether their parents love them, they can focus and use their brain to do what they're supposed to do at school, so that they can get to learn and focus.
Yeah, that's very true. And so, in the course that you're working on, is it just understanding the love language of the child, or also syncing it with the parents' love language? And if it is it important to know kind of your love language and your child's, and see how it reacts or works in tandem with each other?
Well, I think it's important you know your own love language. You're not going to really be taught about that in the course, but I think as we go through all the different love languages, you'll kind of get what's yours, and you will then be able to fill it up either yourself or asking your partner or a friend, and really take responsibility so your love tank is full, and therefore you'll be better at doing all the parenting. But the course isn't just about the love languages. It's a lot to do with how to get your child to sleep through the night, how to get the child to eat properly, how to get your child to be interested in other things than the screen, how to get your child to make friends, keep friends, how to get siblings to work things out between each other, and also it's about looking after the child's feelings, so that it gets to regulate their own feelings, which is one of the main things they need to do as well, not to be bullied, because a lot of the children, if they start overreacting to some small teasing, then they could be a victim of bullying. And we got that. We also got things about how they can use the love languages and to make and keep friends, like I was mentioning earlier, as a kind of like a social skill. So there's a lot more in that course other than just the love languages. So that's one part of it.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting.
We also got things that nothing to do with the love languages, like how to get your child not to be fussy so that it can eat healthily, because if you become really, really overweight, there's a bigger chance of being bullied, because not just because you're overweight, but also because you can't participate in sports and other activities, and therefore get the right social skills. So there are things that doesn't really have much to do with the love languages. But then again, one of the solutions that we got is that you make it quality time with the meal and also preparing the meal. So you get the child to have quality time with you, and you praise the child for chopping the vegetables and being a part of it, and that actually helps the child be more interested in eating the food and trying new things as well by cooking with you. So it's kind of all indirect. And like to have your child being able to work out conflicts with whether it's peers or whether it's brothers and sisters, one of the things that you have to do as a parent is to give that child quality time, which we define as really listening. So listening is a really powerful tool, and you, by really, really being there, it can be a lot more wiser afterwards to work out conflicts with other kids. So that's it's all a part of it.
Okay. And it's so you say listening sometimes, and I think it's important because when I think we've talked about it in the earlier videos, we listen, but then we add meaning to what we're listening, right? So in listening, we need to be mindful of what meanings we're adding to it.
Yeah, and just really listen without coming up with suggestions or solutions, and even having that sort of calmness in yourself, so you can get the child to come out with everything he has to say, and then being able to think and come up with a solution. You'd be surprised how often they've got good solutions to problems.
Yes, definitely. As parents, we like to jump in and try to kind of not have the child fuss around, right?
Yeah, we often don't have the patience to sort of wait for them to come up with solutions, even though sometimes they're really clever.
Yeah. Interesting.
And of course, if they gain confidence in being able to solve problems, then that's going to be really useful for them if they're in friendships as well. So that's an important skill to learn.
Yeah. And I was earlier you talked about like adding like children who have higher self-esteem, if especially they would not add meaning to that teasing. Is there a particular love language that a child may have that would be more affected by teasing?
Yeah, words of affirmation, if that's your main love language, then you will take it as criticism, and that's your vulnerability. Whereas if you've got quality time as your main love language, then you will feel more vulnerable to that kind of bullying that means being excluded socially. So if somebody's saying something a bit rude, you might be really upset if words of affirmation is your love language. But if somebody's going to the cinema, there might be only room for 4 in the car, and then you just happen to be the one who's not invited. That you can take that really personally, and a lot more personally than if somebody was teasing you by saying mean things, if that's your love language.
Interesting. So different ways of kind of feeling alienated or alienating others, right? Depending on the type of love language that you have. We think of everything as together as childish, but as you peel the layers, there's much more to it.
Sure. And I think it's a bit silly calling it childish, but because we're the same, at least I'm the same, I can be quite irrational if I don't get enough praise, and if I get a lot of criticism, I can become really not the best version of myself. So I don't think it's a child thing, but obviously they're more vulnerable and they're not trained in regulating their feelings and taking control over it, and they need to practice to get those wise thoughts in. Obviously, if we practice it a lot, we become quicker at stopping adding meanings and stopping taking it personally, and we handle, let's say, teasing a lot differently.
Yes. I had caught myself adding meaning to whatever my daughter was saying the other day, and I realized, well, she was asking me to warm her food for the second time, and I was like, is this my fault that the food is cold? And she was like, no. It's like I added meaning since she asked twice. I thought, like, am I a bad parent that I'm not warming the food for you?
Well, we add meaning all the time. We're somebody said we're meaning-making machines, human beings, so that's completely normal.
Okay, that's a good term, meaning-making machine.
Meaning-making machines, yes, we are. But we can catch ourselves and then maybe stop it sometimes. And I think, honestly, about 90% of upset can be stopped if we stop adding meaning. If we take the time and wiseness and start using the frontal cortex, that part of the brain with the thinking and the logic, if we really use that brain, if somebody's upsetting us and we think, why am I upset by that he didn't bring this or that, or he didn't invite me, or he said so and so, when we really see what the meaning we add and what other interpretations are possible, we can stop being upset about 90% of the time. Because it's not really upsetting in itself. It's the meaning that we add.
So tell me a little about thinking through the frontal cortex. What does that mean?
It's just the part of the brain that's the clever, wise part where we do our logic, our language, and our planning. That doesn't really work when we're really affected by feelings. If we're scared or really upset or really angry, or that emotional part of the brain, if amygdala is really stressed out, and we get a lot of stress hormones in our brain and our body, that clever part doesn't really work. But when we do use it, we can see the different, let's say he said, I'm not interested in that. Let's say my partner said that, I'm not interested in that. If it was something that was really important for me to talk about, and he said, I'm not interested in that, and he'd just sort of carry on being on his computer, I could make that mean a lot of things. I could make it mean, oh, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care about me. Or I could start using my frontal, and I could be really scared and really upset and really triggered by that. Or I could use my frontal cortex and my clever thinking brain and say, okay, what could that be about? Maybe it could be that he's stressed out because he's got some work he needs to finish. Maybe it's that he thinks he knows what I'm going to say because he's heard it before. Maybe it's he's not feeling well. Maybe it could be that he truly isn't interested in that subject I want to talk about. Doesn't really mean he doesn't love me or he doesn't care about me. That's my meaning-making machine adding things. So just by seeing all those things, I might not be upset at all. So I can use my frontal cortex to stop me from being upset. And since we're talking about children now, if we can have the children have their love tank be filled up at home, and preferably in class as well, then their frontal cortex will be used a lot more effectively, and they will be wiser and not take silly teasing so personally. And obviously, if they feel more relaxed and they don't feel so stressed out, they can use their frontal cortex learning their maths and the timetables and the writing and reading as well. So there's a lot of things you can do if you got your frontal cortex working.
That sounds about it.
Well, that's what we want to switch on when our kids are feeling really frustrated. You want to have that part of the brain working. And I've probably said it 3 times now, but your best way of ensuring that is to make sure your own love language is being met. And if you're by yourself, then you can take responsibility by filling up your love tank yourself. So let's say your main love language is words of affirmation. You really need to make sure that you start saying positive things about you. Write a diary every evening where you say something you've been proud of, something you've appreciated, something you like about yourself, or something that you've achieved, and make sure you give yourself a pat on the shoulder and say something nice about yourself. And it's even possible to ask your friends to compliment you, and it actually works. And if you've got maybe a colleague or a boss who's not that good at that language, you can share with them about the 5 languages of appreciation and say that you would really like some positive feedback on something you've done at work. Just that being the adult taking responsibility so you got your own love tank full up makes a difference. And like I said, have a listening partner. Find somebody who will listen to all the all the things that don't go through a filter. Just listen and not judge you for it. Just have everything come out. That will make you more capable of using your frontal cortex as well.
So parenting is a lot about working on yourself, as much working on yourself as much as on your children, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
But there are many ways in which you can do, you can have your brain focused by getting enough exercise, making sure you get enough sleep, making sure you get time to yourself as well, to relax and do things that are fulfilling for you. There are many ways in which you can make sure that your brain works wisely for your kids.
Very, very interesting. So how would you, is it easy to understand the primary love language of your child?
Well, it's kind of easy. If you observe for a while, you can see what they ask for. If they say, oh, what do you think of my drawing? Do you like it? And they get dressed, oh, do I look nice? It's kind of easy to guess. It's words of affirmation. If they ask, can we go and do this? Please, Mum, come and sit down and do drawing with me, or can we do clay, or whatever. If they're asking for that, they're asking for quality time. If they're asking for help a lot, then it's acts of service. And if they seem to really appreciate gifts and look after their gifts and be really adding meaning to it, like it means a lot to them, then it's easy to guess that it's gifts. And if they're sort of clingy, if they want hugs and touching all the time, then it's probably physical touch. And if they like to sort of sit on your lap or sit really close to you on the sofa, and they will show you love in that way as well. So if they give you hugs to show that they love you, or if they say I love you, or they say nice things to you, or if they are asking if they can help you, then that's acts of service. And if they give you things, if they, some kids constantly draw you things and they give it to you as a present, and they find things that they think you might like, then it's kind of easy to guess if you're observed for a while. But there is a test you can do as well. And sometimes you can also see about what hurts them the most. So if they get really hurt by criticism, then words of affirmation. And if they get really hurt, if they feel left out, then it could be quality time. If they feel really upset if you're not doing something for them to help, or if you're moody helping them, if that really hurts them, then you can see that it's acts of service. If they don't get hugs and they get really clingy in like a sad way, then maybe it's physical touch. If you forget their birthday, or you don't bring something back, if you've been on a work trip, then maybe if that really hurts them, then maybe that's gifts is their love language.
With kids now with my kid, I'm kind of thinking, okay, what if she does all of those?
Well, your child, she's 5, isn't she? It's kind of early. Sometimes you don't know their main love language at that age. I think like young children, all of them need all 5 love languages spoken all the time. But you might start seeing some pattern. I mean, my boy was 5 when I learned about this, and we had like a before and after. My parenting life was completely different when I realized he had physical touch as his love language. And I managed to start waking him up with stroking him and hugging him for 3 minutes, rather than just telling him to get up. When I started doing that, his behavior completely transformed. He was quite difficult before. He used to be angry a lot of the time. He seemed quite aggressive, and I was worried he was going to end up being the bully because he had so much willpower. When my Y set was on, I said, oh, he's got a lot of willpower. That's really good. But other times I just thought he was being rude and difficult. But when I started, I mean, he would spend half an hour not getting dressed for kindergarten, and it was really tiring being his mum. And me being a parental advisor, I found it really embarrassing as well. So not just difficult and hard work, it was embarrassing. And I was embarrassed by his behavior, to be honest. And then it was like night and day, unrecognizable. When you meet him now, people say, oh, I've hardly ever seen such a polite boy. He's so kind, and he's really self-disciplined. He'll do all his homework by himself, and he's a really good goalkeeper, and he practices all the time, and he does like 2 hours a day of really boring exercise because he's got a lot of self-discipline, and he's very friendly. He's got nice friends. I get so much praise from that boy. It's unbelievable. And the people that I meet who meet him, they would not believe he was that kind of kid. And it was literally from knowing about physical touch and giving him enough of it. It was like a different person, honestly.
Wow, that's great. So at first you did add personal meaning, embarrassment, right? And then it was more about your son. And then
What's that again? Sorry.
no, I meant so we, as a parent, you did add embarrassment, add meaning.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I added a lot of meaning. I felt absolutely useless as a mom, and I thought, oh, what's everybody going to think of him? And I could see it was a vicious circle as well, because my friends, my family, they would have a go at him, so he would lose confidence and wouldn't feel confident socializing because everybody would be so annoyed because he was being naughty and difficult. I had no idea and never thought of it as being an empty love tank. I used to think of it as him needing more discipline. So I would use, super nanny, sit him in the corner, let him think of it, and punishment and take away things. That's how I was trained. So, but that didn't really seem to work. So for me, I'm just forever grateful, wanting to share this.
Wow.
And I've seen the difference that it's made in his life. It's unbelievable. And in my life as well, I don't have to feel embarrassed. I can feel really proud.
Wow, that is powerful. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and just the future from this compared to the future he'd have if I didn't know about this is quite incredible, really.
Yeah, I can feel it.
I mean, I always loved him. I knew I loved my children, but I love the time I really didn't like him, and that's awful. It's really sad when you don't like your child. It's a horrible feeling.
And so just taking that feeling of feeling horrible, not liking it, and just understanding the needs of your child, right? Changed it 360 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so I think this is a very good place for us to kind of, I think, end it. So yeah. Before we end, what are your final thoughts, or final message to the parents who are looking at it?
Okay, final message is be proud to have listened to this interview and to make a stand for your child, and do a free webinar at the end of this year. And don't feel embarrassed that you need help to solve the parenting thing, because really, honestly, it's very strange the way we live our lives now. We're very hard working, but we're kind of lonely. We're not in this sort of community where everybody in the village is helping you raise your child. So it's no wonder you need some input and help, and you should be really proud that you're a stand for your child. And I'm just feeling really blessed to have spent that time with you and to get to connect with people and to be able to help from some of my mistakes, so you don't have to go through the mistakes I've been through. That's my message. And also number 2 is just try out the listening thing. Quality time, we call it. Charging, somebody else calls it. Being there and really being there and listen and have your child let everything out is extremely powerful, and it will literally change your parenting and your life, and it will be a lot easier, and then you don't have to do all that punishing. It's quite an amazing tool to really be there and listen.
It's very important point that you brought up, that we are missing a community. We're kind of like one person or 2% team. We're trying to do it all together, but we do need, right?
Yeah.
Okay, with
and
that,
get yourself, okay, a third point before I go, get yourself a listening partner.
Listening partner, got it.
Yeah, because if you get listened to, you can be able to listen to your child as well. And remember that all the tears and all the tantrums, all that needs to be getting out. Laughter and tears is really healing for the brain. So let it all come out.
Okay. I'll let that sink in. I think the listeners will let that sink in to them too. That's very valuable. Thank you so much, Anita.
Thank you for having me.
And